Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ramadan Mubarak. I'd like to share with you a little bit about what the holy month of Ramadan is and what it means for Muslims around the world. If you think back to the early 7th century, there was a man named Muhammad who used to go often to a cave on Mount Hira just outside the city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. He would pray there for days and nights on end, and he would contemplate the meaning of life and be praying to the one God whom he believed in. And he wondered why there was so much materialism in the world. After 15 years of deep devotion and meditation, he heard a voice. It was the voice of the angel Gabriel, who had brought a message from God, the first revelation of what would come to be the Holy Quran, the holy book of Muslims around the world. This is the same angel Gabriel and the same one God of the Judeo-Christian tradition. It was on this night that Muhammad became a prophet. Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him and his family. This night in Islam is known as the Night of Power, Laylatul Qadr. And for the next 23 years, Prophet Muhammad would continue to receive revelation from God and bring it to the people. This religion is called Islam, and its practitioners called Muslims. Because this night of power occurred during the month of Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, which is the 9th month of the Islamic lunar calendar, is believed to be the holiest in the year for Muslims. It is during this time that Muslims around the world, who form about 25% of the world's population, all these Muslims, regardless of their language or culture or country of origin or even interpretation of Islam, come together in practicing this pillar. During this month, there is deep and intense prayer. There is fasting. There is reflection. There is generosity and sharing with the poor and the sick and the weak. I'd like to tell you a story that I think captures the spirit of Ramadan very well. Again, in the 7th century, during Prophet Muhammad's time, may peace be upon him and his family, there was a couple of boys who were very, very ill, and their parents did everything they could to improve the health of these children, but nothing would work. Worried, the father went to see the Holy Prophet and asked him what to do. And the Prophet responded, "Go back, and you and your wife and your 2 little boys, you must fast for 3 days. And at the end of the fast, on each evening, you can break the fast. And after those 3 days, your boys will be cured." So the man said, okay, and he went back and shared the information with his wife, and the family then went on to fast for the next 3 days. Now imagine how difficult that must be for 2 small children who were already close to the brink of death. And despite the health challenges they were facing, the family dutifully followed what the Prophet said. And at the end of the first night, as they were breaking their fast and said their evening prayers, they sat down at the table and were about to eat when they heard a knock at the door. It was a traveler who was asking, "Please, I haven't eaten. May I have some food?" And they gave all of it away. On the second night, when they sat down to break their fast after saying their evening prayers, again, there was a knock at the door. This time, it was an orphan asking, "Please, I am so hungry. I haven't eaten in days. May I have some food?" And again, they gave it all away. On the third night, again, there was a knock at the door when they sat down to break their fast. This time, it was a recently released prisoner, again asking for some food. And again, they gave all that they had. Now, after these 3 days, by God's decree, those 2 young boys miraculously were cured. And in this story, what we see is something really quite remarkable. The father was actually Hazrat Ali, the cousin and son-in-law of Prophet Muhammad. The wife was the daughter of the Prophet, Bibi Fatima Zahra. And the 2 little boys were the Prophet's own grandchildren, Hazrat Hassan and Hazrat Hussein. So you can see that difficulties impact everybody, even those with high spiritual status who are closest to God. And it is in those times of difficulty that we are asked to remain patient and prayerful, that we are asked to continue our submission to the one God, that we are grateful for his bounty, everything that he has given us, despite whatever difficulty we might be facing. So he's given us food and shelter, a family, life itself, knowledge and skills, electricity at this time, not back in the 7th century. And all of these things this family was very grateful for. The other thing that the story shows us is to trust in God's bounty and his will. So that's why they shared everything they had with neighbors and with strangers and with anybody in need, knowing that God would provide for them. And it's the spirit of these kinds of observances and practices, of remaining patient and prayerful, steadfast in faith, fulfilling one's promises, seeking God's mercy, sharing with the less fortunate. These are the things that Muslims around the world practice for the full 30 days during the month of Ramadan. Now, typically, at the end of each evening during the month of Ramadan, families and friends and neighbors will get together to break their fast and to pray. But right now, during the pandemic, that's not possible. Instead, folks will be praying by themselves or in their homes with the families that they live with, and some will be connecting online to offer prayers together or to listen to sermons and devotional literatures. Some of them will be having virtual iftars, breaking of the fast together with family and friends online. And some of them will actually be doing some interfaith Quran study online as well. So sharing some of their tradition and trying to interpret it together with those of other faiths. Another key part of Ramadan is the fast not just of what we eat, but the fast of the tongue, of the ears, of the eyes. This means that we must be mindful of what it is that we say, that we don't say things that are harmful to one another, that we don't listen to gossip or negative things, that we don't look at things that will lead us astray or to cause us to forget God and to try to defy him. And this is especially important because in the Quran, God tells us that on the day of judgment, the sight and the hearing and the heart will all be questioned. Another key part of Ramadan is towards the end, the last 10 nights are the ones in which it was believed that the night of power occurred. So for many Sunni communities, they believe it was one of the odd nights of the last 10 days of the month. And in many Shia communities, they believe it was specifically the 23rd night. Now, this night is believed to be one of great blessing and power and mercy of God. It is a night on which the angels and the Spirit descends into the world on God's command, and God blesses those whom he wishes. And because of that, Muslims around the world will spend the entire night in deep prayer and devotion, offering supplications and asking for God's mercy and his blessings. At the end of Ramadan, it's marked with a beautiful festival called Eid al-Fitr. It means the festival of the breaking of the fast. And this is a time when Muslims celebrate with family and with friends, gathering in the mosque or the masjid or the zawiya or the tekke or jamaat khana to pray together, offering special prayers and gratitude to God and asking him to bless all people. They will also offer charity to those who are in need, and also will go home and celebrate with wearing new clothes and eating delicious special foods that they've made and exchanging gifts. It's kind of like a Christmas for Muslims in a way. And this year, of course, because of the pandemic and folks following social distancing guidelines, many Muslims won't be able to practice in the same way. And so instead, again, they may be connecting online to celebrate with family and with friends, and finding other ways to kind of offer their celebration and their opportunities to meet together. Another thing that happens during Ramadan for many Muslims is the pilgrimage. Now, you may have heard of the Hajj, the pilgrimage that Muslims strive to go on at least once during their lifetime, and that normally occurs during a specific period in the Islamic calendar. But when people go on pilgrimage to those same sites and they do the same rituals at any other time during the year, it is something called Umrah, the smaller pilgrimage. And because Ramadan is believed to be the holiest month, many Muslims will try to go on pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina during Ramadan. Now, this year, with the pandemic, those holy sites are closed and people cannot go on pilgrimage. And so instead, they may be praying for God to accept their good intentions and their convictions and devotion to Him, and ask for mercy for not being able to physically go on the pilgrimage. As you can see, Ramadan is a month of deep and prayerful reflection. It is about turning away from oneself and from one's ego and towards God. And it is really about remembering everything that He does for us every day. And the idea is that by dulling one's senses and turning towards the one God on a daily basis for this 1 month, we are trying to transform our spiritual selves and accentuate our connection to God so that it remains with us throughout the year, so that every day we are grateful for His bounty and His blessings, and that we act in a way that He has asked us to. I'd like to close with a few words that to me are quite powerful. In times of difficulty, God calls on the faithful to remain patient and prayerful, knowing that God has created a cure for every disease and that following every hardship, He brings ease. This will certainly be a Ramadan to remember, likely marked with renewed spiritual strength, gratitude for all that we have, and relinquishing the excesses we thought we needed, holding steadfast to what matters most, which is love for and service to the Creator and His creation. Ramadan Mubarak.